Hello and welcome to Carlisle. By the end of today, the Tour of Britain will be half complete. We've had 3 different leaders in 3 days. Orica Green Edge's Lee Howard, the latest man to wear the gold leaders jersey. Today though, it's all up for grabs again.
Jedburgh was bathed in sunshine as stage 3 got underway. Skye with something to put right after the misadventure of the previous day. There was an early opportunity too. A sprint after 10k saw Luke Rowe claw back a second over Boy van Poppel. The breakaway formed and it was all about Christian House, taking out one of the 3 Skoda King of the Mountains and placing highly in the rest, enough to see him regain the lead in that competition. As the breakaway fell away in the final kilometres, it was Garmin's Sepp van Marke who animated the race, teaming up with Wesley Crader and forcing the bunch, led by Bradley Wiggins, to respond. It came back, and this time Mark Cavendish made no mistake.
Here comes Mark Cavendish, the Manx Express in the World Champs jersey. This is Cavendish at his best. Up to the line, the victory salute. Mark Cavendish takes the stage here.
Howard edges Mark Cavendish for the overall on count back. That's the higher average placing. Boy van Poppel drops back to 3rd at 4 seconds on the same time as Luke Rowe. Ross Downing's at 12 seconds and Garmin's Sepp van Marke is in 9th place at 16 seconds.
Well, that stage win into Dumfries wasn't the end of the day for Mark Cavendish. His duties extended way beyond that, didn't they, Matt? He and Bradley Wiggins had to go for a pub dinner at the Strickland Arms near Penrith. What was that all about?
Well, I believe it was something to do with the competition that the pub had won, and obviously the Sky bus rolled up, and it was as if One Direction had landed in the Lake District with the crowds they had. It was absolutely phenomenal. I saw some footage on the internet. Quite incredible. One
Direction. I'm not totally convinced Bradley Wiggins will be happy with that. He's more of a jam man, isn't he?
I guess so.
Yeah, but let's bring it up to date. One Direction, why not? It wasn't just Mark Cavendish's stage win yesterday that I liked. What really interested me was the first GC move, or at least attempted move of the day, when Sepp van Marke went off the front of the bunch and tried to win the stage.
Definitely, it was a really significant move. You had the 4 escapees that were just floating out the front. He jumped across. What you got to bear in mind, the bunch were bearing down at approximately 50 k's an hour in the finale to try and tee it up for Mark. And again, Sepp van Marke, nobody could give him a turn on the run-in. The gap just was holding it 5 to 10 seconds, so they got Bradley on the front to bring it back. I think that just showed that Sky were worried about Van Marke, and I think we'll see him again attacking on the difficult stages on the run into the finish.
He's not perhaps a household name in cycling, but within cycling he's got real credentials, hasn't he? I mean, just this year he won a very famous race in Belgium, Omloop Het Nieuwsblad.
Yeah, beating none other than Tom Boone in 2nd place. I mean, the really gritty, difficult, cold conditions suit the Belgian guys, so I think he'll revel in the next few stages coming up, definitely. We'll see him to the fore.
So we'll see some more of him and attacks like that over the next few days?
I'm sure. I think what we'll see now is the main GC guys coming out to play. We've had a few days for the sprinters. Today might be a sprinters day as well, but I think the next few stages we're going to see some fireworks.
OK, well, one of the teams who's already worn the gold leaders jersey and probably wants to get it back again is United Healthcare, and amongst their number they've got some very interesting individuals indeed.
The Curaçao National Championship jersey. There can't be too many professional riders in Curaçao, am I right?
No, that's right. There are a lot of riders, but I'm the only professional one.
Curaçao, it's a far cry from the weather we're having here. How are you coping with it?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time over here. I live in Spain when I'm racing in Europe, so the weather over there is pretty alright as well. So it's a bit cold for me over here, but I grew up in the Netherlands, so kind of used to this kind of weather.
Tell us about that accident back in 2007. That was a serious one, wasn't it? You were in a coma for a while, is that right?
Yeah, sure. I was crashed in the Alps, and I remember not so much about that, but I was still in a coma for 11 days, and I wake up and my life was difficult. So after 2010 I stopped again for 1 year in cycling, and then I was a speed skater in the ice, and yes, in Holland is famous, and I was good for that. But cycling is my life, and my head is good, my body is good. So in Portugal last month I won the stage there, and the condition is good. So I will see for this week.
Boy, how have you enjoyed sprinting against Mark Cavendish and the like here at the Tour of Britain?
Yeah, for sure. He's one of the biggest riders in the world, and if you can compare to him, that's amazing. Yeah.
The Dutch Antilles a stark contrast to today's stage in the northwest of England. The weather could play a big part, with an exposed route over Shap Fell, down through Kendal and onto the finishing line at Blackpool Tower. Wind could easily fracture the race, and riders will have to be wary to stay near the front and avoid being caught out. A short journey south and Stage 4 is back on the roads of England. Carlisle, the departure point that launches the riders onto the open roads of Cumbria. The gentle start to the day soon gives way to the rugged landscape of the Lake District. Plenty of ups and downs as the Tour passes through Kendal, shaves the Pennines and shoots out of the Lancashire Hills towards the coast and the expected bunch sprint finish under the tower in Blackpool.
OK, that's how Stage 4 looks in principle. In practice, Matt, a little less lumpy than the last couple of days.
Definitely. We have 2 second cat climbs and a 3rd cat climb, and then the very, very flat run into Blackpool.
Windy in Blackpool?
Yeah, well, obviously the stage was cancelled last year because of the extreme weather conditions. It's not the case today, although it is definitely going to be gusty. And that'll be interesting on the run-in because it's extremely exposed as well. But again, I don't think it will cause too much hassle to the sprinters. Right,
the last bona fide chance for Mark Cavendish to pull off another stage win. And if he does and gets the time bonus there, he could well end up leading this race. Now, is that... Explain this. Is that what he wants to do?
Well, as you said earlier, I think there's a certain ambivalence in relation to the yellow jersey and Mark. But again, because he's in the rainbow stripes, every rider, when they're in the rainbow stripes, wants to win because those wins are precious. And again, I think Mark is very, very proud and wants to win another stage and then go on and just wear the jersey to the end of the race.
If he does end up in the race lead, he'll wear the jersey though, won't he?
Of course he will, of course he will.
OK, all right. Let's hope he does anyway. Let's find out exactly what goes on out on the road from Carlisle to Blackpool in the capable hands of Rob Hales and Hugh Porter.
5, 4, 3,
94 riders facing the rollout for Stage 4 of the Tour of Britain, taking the riders from Carlisle to Blackpool, a distance of 156 kilometres. And the big problem today is going to be the weather, because there's been heaps of rain overnight and there is rain threatened for the whole of the day and strong winds.
That's correct, Hugh. The weather playing a big part today, I think. It doesn't look too bad here, but the news is that it's chucking it down on the course, and also the wind. That's going to play a massive part in today's racing.
Well, the man with the problem there, he is Lee Howard, the leader of the race. He's on the same time as Mark Cavendish. There's the leader of the Yodel Sprint competition, Peter Williams, and Peter Williams got a handsome lead at the moment of 15 points. So they're edging out towards the edge of Carlisle. Well, nearing kilometre 0, which means the neutralised section is over. The loosening of the legs completed, and we've got an attack already beginning to unfold. Rider from An Post, Sean Kelly, and that's actually Ronan McLaughlin. There's a reaction by a rider immediately behind him from IG Sigma Sport.
Yeah, I think the Sigma Sport rider there, that looks like Dan Craven going with him, as we can see the back of the peloton here. These riders, quite narrow roads, treacherous conditions, and here we've got the group already starting to form.
Yes, they are going off the front, the group, and right at the head of them is the leader on the King of the Mountains, and that's Christian House. So House trying to get clear of the peloton early on, obviously looking to get more points. And another rider trying to come across here from Node 4 Giordano Racing. Well, if he can bridge, it means we've got a nice group of 6 going clear.
Christian House there really is trying to push on, and what a race he's had so far. 4th stage, and he's already been away for 3 of those days.
Reason for his early attack is the fact that he wants to reinforce his stranglehold in the King of the Mountains competition. He set off here then with the lead of 5 points over Pablo Urtasun, and Pablo Urtasun is not in this group. There's a man with a happy face, Mark Cavendish, and also at the side Jack Bobridge. We are approaching the first sprint of the day. 1 kilometre to go then for the first Yodel sprint. It'll take place in Shap, and they will have covered 43 kilometres then. 94 riders took the start today, and you're looking at the 6 escapees that gave the bunch the slip just on the edge of Carlisle. They've got a lead of 6 minutes and 35 seconds. There's nobody a real danger here to the overall leader in this Yodel sprint competition, who's Peter Williams, because he's got a 15-point cushion advantage over his nearest challenger. That's Ronnie Matthias from Sarre-Sochasson.
I would imagine if anybody's going to be interested in this sprint, it will be the rider on the back here, Matthew Cronshaw, who is the teammate of the current leader, Peter Williams. He'll want to make sure that he's mopping up these points and just keeping them away from the other riders.
And that's exactly as you've said. It's the rider from Team K Youth that's taken it on. Gustafsson from UK Youth Cycling on the front. Can Gustafsson hold off the challenge on the line? It was pretty close, wasn't it? From the teammate of Williams. Here's another chance to look at it.
Yep, here we can see Gustafsson, he takes it up. Matt Cronshaw, as I thought, is wanting to get there. It's extremely difficult to see from this angle. We do need a side on. It's certainly going to come down to a photo finish for that one, and it's going to give the commissaires there on the line a little bit of work to do.
Well, in actual fact, Gustafsson did beat Cronshaw to the line, and McLaughlin third, and David Lilley coming in fourth, but that doesn't affect the overall at all. Now the first big climb of the day is getting nearer, the 2.1 kilometre ascent of Schapfel. There is the sign that tells us the start of the first climb of the day at Schapfel. Second category ascent over 2.1 kilometres.
Yeah, 1.3 miles this climb now. Christian House just starting to apply a bit of pressure. He'll start to think and concentrate about the climb at the top, crossing that line first and gaining maximum points.
There's confirmation of the leading group that are on the foot slopes of this first mountain climb of the day of Schapfel with an advantage of 6 minutes and 11 seconds. Now the man here that's going to gain the most is going to be Christian House. Of course, he's the current leader on the King of the Mountains with a points tally of 46. Now let me tell you, the points on a second cat climb are 6 for the first and 1 for the sixth. So that means all the points on this climb are taken up by the breakaway group. So Pablo Urtasun, the Spaniard who's lying second in this competition, 5 points adrift of the tally of House, will not gain any here at all. In fact, there's only one man in this group that has scored any points in the mountains competition apart from Christian House, and that's Ronan McLaughlin, who's currently 14th on 4 points.
Yep, there's only one place to be on a day like this, and that's in the team car. And if you're not in the team car, then the second best position is obviously the commentary box in here, and the third is in the break. You certainly don't want to be back in the peloton on a day like this.
This is the Lithuanian champion, actually, with a problem at the back. This is Gediminas Bogdanas, who won a stage last year into Sandringham.
Bogdan's got a little bit of work now to get back up to the peloton. They're not riding too hard, as we've said, but he'll use the vehicles as best as possible and work his way back up to the back of that group.
Just fanning out from the right here, just to indicate, as I said a little earlier, crosswind. They've got the fans here, they're going ballistic. They're waiting, of course, for the superstars to arrive, and that's Bradley Wiggins and Mark Cavendish. The interest, of course, once again here in the Tour of Britain is astonishing. The amount of people that are turning out roadside has been so impressive, and I mean, even in conditions like this, at the most hostile points on the course, they are there to support the riders.
The crowds, they have been so enthusiastic this week and at this race, and unsurprising after the year that British cycling has had, and the riders, the Tour de France, and obviously the Olympics only a few weeks ago, created massive interest. And here we can see the crowds, and on a day like this, to have people out on the climbs, it just shows how enthusiastic they really are.
Christian House on the front, he really is in imperious form, that silky smooth pedaling style, as he's quite happy to drag the rest along because he knows he's going to get more points in the bank here, and every point that he takes today is putting him in a stronger position to win this King of the Mountains.
Christian House, one of the most impressive domestic-based riders that we've got and that we've had over the years. We've got ourselves a bit of an echelon here with the wind. As you said, Hugh, they're all just, the wind's coming across from the right-hand shoulder, and so they all try and stay out of the wind and just try and help themselves and help each other.
Well, here comes the summit then of this first climb of Schapfel, and the main contender for the King of the Mountains, Christian House, picks up 6 points there. Nobody really challenged him. He was looking at McLaughlin, but McLaughlin, well, he didn't threaten him, did he? So 6 points, useful points there to Christian House, and that takes his tally to 52. He's 11 points clear now of Urtasun.
Yeah, the other 5 riders there, all happy to let Christian House take those points. None of them interested in that.
Here's another chance to take a look at it. He was looking across to see about the challenge because he wants 6, not 5, but it didn't really materialise, did it?
No, all happy to just roll across and get on with the ride.
So 6 very useful points then for Christian House. 2 more big climbs to come. The peloton have now just crossed the start of the ascent. You can see the sign just behind them. So they've now got the 2.1 kilometre pedalling uphill ahead of them.
No great stress for these guys at the moment. We can see Cavendish still just having a word, the odd word, with Wiggins next to him. The Spanish riders here, the Scatel team, really not enjoying this weather this week. Plenty of clothing, they would have brought everything they've got for them to wear.
Fast descent now, which will take them to the next sprint in Kendal, which is the southern gateway to the Lake District, around 9 miles from Windermere. And the speed on this descent, well, they'll be touching something around 50 miles per hour. They'll need to keep an eye on those white lines because they'll be very slippy.
Yeah, some of the information that we've been getting fed back from the riders, from their computers, they've been touching well over 80 kilometres an hour, so as you say, 50 miles an hour on some of the descents earlier on in the week, and today will be no exception, I'm sure.
Bobridge continues to keep the rhythm even at the front. He really is a metronome, isn't he? He can ride like that for hours and hours. Now then, they're crouching down here, getting prepared for the task in hand, and that, of course, is to attack the next sprint, which is going to come at 66.7 kilometres in Kendal. Here's the bunch approaching the summit of the climb. No points available for the bunch because all the 6 have been taken up. So a very profitable climb then for Christian House.
These riders now, they've got themselves over the top, so the pressure will just ease off on the legs. You can see Zach Dempster there, Enduro Racing. He's calling up for the rest of his teammates to come up. He's got Russell Downing in his wheel, their sprinter.
There's a sign that tells us it's 1 kilometre to go to the second Yodel sprint of the day in Kendal. Kendal, of course, the southern gateway to the Lake District. It's about 9 miles away from Windermere. Now then, the winner of the first sprint was Gustafsson from Cronshaw. The leader of this competition is Peter Williams with that very handsome 27 points, so none of these riders are going to cause any problem to Williams. He will not lose the lead throughout the whole of this stage because Williams is actually enveloped in the wheels here in the bunch. And the crowds are there, look at this, massing on both sides of the road. Here they come then, nearing the line. 5, 3, 2 and 1 are the points available. There goes Cronshaw, he fancies the 5 points. A reaction from Gustafsson, but he's been caught napping there, and it's Cronshaw, the teammate then of Williams, the overall leader, that's going to take the 5 points. Yeah, and it's Gustafsson that went over the line second, and the rider from Ann Post, Sean Kelly, Ronan McLaughlin filling 3rd spot.
He came from the back, he gave himself here, you can see he's got a gap. He's allowed him to run up the back of the other guys and take them by surprise on this right-hander. Gustafsson got himself stuck on the front, had no vision and gave himself no chance to take the points there from Cronshaw.
So he's starting to get a few points under his belt. 5 for the first, for the second sprint, 3 for the second. So he's amassed 8 points. Welcome back, and the breakaway group of 6 are really putting the peloton under the sword at the moment. Their lead is 5 minutes and 35 seconds, and they're now on the second climb of the day, which is Old Hutton, a second category ascent of 4.2 kilometres.
Yeah, this 4.2k climb, it's not too steep, so it won't put any of these riders under pressure whatsoever.
Right on the head of the peloton, it's Ulrika Greenedge, and they are being left to do all the work here. Jack Bobridge is the man trying to pull the peloton along to look after the race leader, Lee Howard. Right on the front here of the breakaway group from the Node 4 Giordano Racing Team is Matt Cronshaw, and the King of the Mountains lurking there in second place, Christian House. He's looking to get a real bonus today, and giving the field a slip is an ideal opportunity for him.
Extremely well, he's riding Christian House in front of all these crowds. Even with the weather, it hasn't stopped them coming out.
Ideal opportunity here then for Christian House, because Ertesan, his nearest challenger, is marooned back there in the peloton, and the kind of form that Christian House has got, he will be looking to scoop up the points. Let's take another look at the front here. Yep, the Racing Capes are the order of the day. These are the riders, of course, from Orica Greenedge, the Australian-based team, trying to keep warm in the rain as it peppers down on the field.
Yeah, cold conditions extremely important to try and stay dry. An awful lot of traffic of riders going to and fro, back to the vehicles, back to their team managers, in the cars, in the convoy behind, picking up all the clothing they can.
But really the form of Christian House has got to be admired, hasn't it? I mean, every time the flag drops, he's on the attack. He knows exactly what he wants to do. He's such an experienced professional, and he's got his eyes firmly fixed on this Skoda King of the Mountains competition. For the group behind, obviously, they're looking after the leader, and they will be anxious to keep that gap down.
They really will. They want Lee Howard to stay in that IG Markets gold jersey as long as possible.
So getting closer now to the summit. Big crowds once again have made their way to the top of these moorland ascents despite the hostile conditions. You can see ahead the banner, so look for the move here of Christian House, or are they just going to ride through it? It looks as though they're going to ride through it. They do. So Christian House picks up 6. Very useful indeed. He'll add that 6 to the tally he's already got, and now his lead has gone further out. There are the rest of the positions over the top. Rowan McLaughlin coming through for 5 in second, Dan Craven third. Good riding by House.
And the treacherous conditions remained all the way into Blackpool. The third and final sprint of the day in Caton saw Node 4's Matt Cronshaw on the attack again. The 23-year-old taking the 5 points ahead of second-placed Ronan McLaughlin. Cronshaw earned 13 points today, which put him into second place in the overall Yodel sprint category, behind teammate Peter Williams.
Well, look at the water here ahead as we're getting nearer to the third climb of the day. This is literally a lake. Well, we are in the Lake District, aren't we?
Well, if we're not, it will be soon.
So you, so the Lake District is providing the riders to ride in the lakes as well. They can ride on water and in water.
Well, the weather doesn't stop the school children coming out to support the riders.
Loving it. So we're just about ready to cross the line here. This is the start of the final climb of the day at Quernmore, the third category ascent. On the line, points for the first 4 over, and 4 for the win, 3 for second, 2 for third, and 1 for fourth. Now then, Christian House will be looking for a clean sweep here on the mountains competition today. First at the top of Shapfell, first at the top of Old Hutton. So he's already amassed 12 points from the challenge of the climbs, and his lead has gone up significantly. He's now totaled 58 points so far.
But here we can see Gustafsson. He's just back with his team car. Any more information, they have to go back to the team car. Not an issue with a group like this, but his team car is certainly taking him out the back here and giving him an awful lot of work to do to get back. And there we see, I mentioned earlier, one of the issues, if you're back with the vehicles and you go through those puddles, you can soon get washed off of your bike.
Now then, that's a slightly illegal pull there, I think.
It's a sticky bottle.
It was a sticky bottle. He couldn't get the bottle out of the hand of the man in the team car, which obviously just helped him with a sort of hand sling, but we didn't really see it, did we? Or did we? Take another look at it. Here's the water, look. Oh dear, oh dear. That's a nice present, isn't it? His shoes now, which are already wet, must now be absolutely full of water. Look at the crowd. Big crowd here. They're loving every moment of it. Of course, they're following the action live on ITV4 every day. And then, of course, the reprise in the evening. And they know exactly where the race is going to be the next day, so they can just come out and cheer the riders on from the roadside. So the field must surely realise now they're on borrowed time. What do you think? Borrowed time now for the team, Rob. Where would you, or the group, I should say? Where do you think they're going to be picked up?
Well, I think it's going to be on the flat run in. It's pan flat for at least the last 30-35 kilometres off the back of the descent of this next climb at Quarrenmore. And somewhere along the run in there, as they head out towards the coast, they'll be setting themselves up for the last dead straight 3-kilometre run in here.
Now then, we're nearing the summit of the climb, and Christian House at the front, just gathering himself here, looking for the sprint and of course the maximum points. He's going to really attack this. He wants another full house at the top. It's 4 for the first rider over the top, just dancing on the pedals out of the saddle. Here he comes up to the line. Yep, Christian House takes it. 4 points to add to his tally. So what a fruitful day he's had then. That takes his overall accumulation of points today to 16 to add to the 46 that he started off with at the start of the day. So he's now got 62 points, and that is 21 points ahead of his nearest challenger, Pablo Urtasun.
Yeah, you can see the other riders there not contesting that sprint, happy to let Christian House roll across the front of the line there and take maximum points on that Category 3 climb.
So Christian House's unbridled passion then for the King of the Mountains jersey has reflected very strongly today, and he will be on the podium later in Blackpool in the protocolaire ceremony.
Welcome back. Now, finally, the pace at the front proved too much for 4 of the breakaway riders, with House, Gustafsson, Lele and Cronshaw dropping back to rejoin the peloton. We pick up the racing with Dan Craven and Ronan McLaughlin holding on to a slender lead and heading for home.
Sweeping across the river wire here now, and this of course is a very, very exposed section, and of course not the ideal scenario for a small group ahead, because it means the peloton can see them. And there we are, the line beginning to form. Also up there is Zach Dempster in second position, riding on the Endura team. A little bit further down, the diminutive figure of Russell Downing, and there is the world champion, and that's Mark Cavendish now really beginning to get the race face on.
Race face there for Jeremy Hunt as well, just off the back of Cavendish there. He's done an awful lot of work today earlier on in this race, and his job now is just to see what he can do in the run-in. He won't be doing much more work on the front, not at this moment in time. Not possible. He's done so much work, tirelessly worked the last 2 days for his team Sky.
They really do look after Mark Cavendish down there. Just look at him there, just tucked in the wheels nicely. And you could see then when Wiggins swung over, I think it was Knace that came through then. Eisel was up there as well to give them a hand as we come back once again to the leaders. Well, this is a really determined effort now. Do or die then by McLaughlin. Dan Craven, he's trying desperately to get into the wheel of the Irishman. I think the Irishman would do better to sit up and wait for him, because then they can share the workload.
No, he would be. He just needs to back off just a little bit. Let Dan Craven, both of those riders that can then take it 50-50. The workload. He's not doing himself any favours at the moment by trying to stay clear of Dan Craven. He really does need to wait and get together, as he does do here. Dan Craven just needs to take a bit of a breather. It's taken an awful lot of energy for him to try and get back to McLaughlin there from Ampost in the green.
Well, he's still got a bit of energy left, look, because he's coming through now to contribute to the pace, but it's only 16 seconds now as the big train on the front of Sky begin to assemble. And this is one of the defining moments of the Tour. I wouldn't say it's the final selection, Rob, with the kind of terrain that we've still got to come, but what it does indicate just how difficult echelon racing is. It's even harder than the climbing.
Well, this is classic flatland racing that we're seeing here, and the wet conditions have only added to that. As we see, still plenty of people out on the side of the road. The schools have come out. The pain etched across McLaughlin's face there, showing the effort that he's putting in, and we can see the trees there on the left-hand side just emphasising that wind that these riders are having to try and ride through. Again, Jonathan Tierenlock taking his turn on the front. I feel he really should be sat in behind in the wheels. The selection's been made now. He's gaining time on a lot of guys who will be looking for that overall GC contention at the back end of this race later on in the week and at the weekend.
10 kilometres to go. There we are. The sporting handshake, and they have capitulated. Here come the peloton, sweeping up the final 2 survivors of a break of 6 that have been clear nearly throughout the whole of the day. And those final 2 survivors, Dan Craven and the Irishman Ronan McLaughlin. So I was going to say it's status quo. That's hardly the case, because we've got this leading group around about 30 riders now that are going away from the residue of the peloton. This morning then 94 took the start, so there are 60-odd riders losing a lot of time here as we look at Russell Downing crouching down on the front, a real good sprinter, twice the British road race champion, past winner of the Tour of Ireland. Downing could be in with a chance here in the sprint, but of course when you've got Mark Cavendish there, everybody's on the back marker. Aerial shot here then of the outskirts of Blackpool. 8.6 kilometres to go now. It will not be long before the field arrive at the line here at the end of the promenade, the Golden Mile. Scene of so many bike race finishes. Many years ago it always used to host the finish of the milk race and the start for many, many years. The run-in, not like the run-ins we've had on the previous stages. Technical, this absolutely straight, almost straight as a die once they get on the promenade with 3 kilometres to go. So it will then be all about control at the front with the power of, no doubt, the Sky team, and 1 or 2 others will try and profit from that. But the kind of running like this, Rob, it's difficult, isn't it, to see how anybody can stop Sky getting this.
Yeah, on paper these are the team to beat, and obviously with a rider like Mark Cavendish, as we saw yesterday, when he's given a clear run and he gets his timing right and his teammates give him the lead out that he requires, there's no stopping him.
Well, the likely threat, of course, is going to come from Lee Howard, the overall race leader. He's proved that he can, well, take the winning spoils away from Cavendish. He did it in Knowsley Safari Park, although there I feel that Cav laid off the wheel a little bit to give Luke Rowe the chance, and of course the Australian profited from that, and then Cavendish left himself a little bit too much work to do.
Yeah, he did, but that was the only time that we've seen anybody sprinting head-to-head with Mark Cavendish, the only rider who's able to take a victory away from him. So Lee Howard will certainly be one of the riders that Cavendish, if not the rider, that Mark Cavendish will be worried about. But I think his concern is just on his own effort and the effort that his Sky teammates can give him. Luke Rowe, I would imagine, he'll be the last rider to drop him off and try and set him up for the victory here. And I'm just looking back. Big Magnus Backstead, he's made it, Team UK Youth. He'll be revelling in this today. This is the kind of racing that he's used to. This is what he loves, and he's certainly working to his strengths today.
So Maggie Backstead right up there as well. Currently placed 28th overall in the race at 33 seconds. So the big man is having a good day. Well, I can tell you that the advantage for the leading group of the peloton is 1 minute and 23 seconds. How important is that going to be then when we go to count back on the next stages? Jonathan Tiernan-Lock just moving up the line here. There's Magnus Backstead, number 152. One of the Garmin Sharp riders as well, tucked in the wheel. And there is number 143, I think that was just going through for Garmin Sharp.
52 there, Brett Lancaster. If Lee Howard wanted a lead-out man, Brett Lancaster would be the guy to do that, and he's also made this group. It looked like there's only one Liquigas rider, and that's certainly not the team leader, Basso. It looks like Caruso
And of course Rath is in there as well for Garmin Sharp, who's another pretty handy finisher. So most of the big players have read this move very, very well indeed.
Yeah, Mark Cavendish there at the back of the screen here on the left-hand side. He's in there, tucked away. He's got all his riders around him. It's Jeremy Hunt on his wheel, just protecting him from behind. He's obviously the wheel that everybody wants, that everybody fights for, and unfortunately we saw that on the first day, everybody battling for his wheel. And it was an Etap rider that just got underneath him in that third to last right-hander before the finish. Unfortunately took him down.
Let's not forget, when we're looking through the wheels here as well, Rob, Boy Van Poppel, he's actually wearing the Chain Reaction Cycles points classification jersey. So that'll take a little bit of picking out if he's up to the front in the sprint.
Yeah, I think I can see him there just on the left-hand side of the screen. So he's on the right-hand side. He's around about 6 guys back, I think, looking from this angle. So he has made it, certainly looking up. He's in the middle of the peloton now. So what's left of the peloton, that is. There's not many here now. Massive amount of damage Team Sky did earlier on.
So instead of the United Healthcare strip on Boy Van Poppel, he's wearing the Chain Reaction Cycles points classification leaders jersey. Another good sprinter. Just 4 from the back then is Lee Howard, the overall leader of the competition. And we have a very, very select quality group here that have now gone away. This is a monumental message that's being sent to the rest of the field. 5 kilometres of racing left. And who's going to triumph here then on the line at the end of the Golden Mile? You can see in the distance then the famous tower. That's of course the Blackpool Tower, 518 feet it stands, inspired by the Eiffel Tower, and was opened actually to the public back in 1894. That is of course the famous Blackpool Tower. And the field, well, this long approach now to the line.
The riders will soon be able to see the tower. Here we come along, pan flat now, dead straight last 3 kilometres into the finish, no bends to negotiate.
Zach Dempster on the front, the Australian, riding on the Enduro team, past winner of the Rutland Seeker Classic, which is the toughest of all the single-day races on the UK domestic calendar. Dempster on the front then, fancying his chances. Tiernan Locke is just tucked in on the inside. And then we're looking at Bernard Eisel, and then just behind there as well is Knies.
Here we've got one of the Irish riders from An Post trying to go clear. But I'll tell you what, Hugh, he isn't going to be allowed to get very far whatsoever.
Tell you what, you need a motorbike to ride away from the Sky team, so Lee Howard must really fancy his chances, but I think this effort's going to be in vain. He'll just get swept up, because when you think they'll be travelling at something like 28 miles an hour here, so to establish a lead he's got to be going at something like 40. It's just not on, is it?
No, it's not on when you've got riders like Bernie Eisel in your wheel chasing you down. Your chances are absolutely zero. No chance whatsoever to stay away, and that effort there by An Post was extremely short-lived.
Three kilometres to go now for the leaders. Now then, just keep an eye on the professional formation of the Sky team as they begin to set the charge up, and they've got riders from Enduro in the mix as well here.
Christian Knies there taking up the pressure on the front, really has started to drive this small select group onto the finish and onto a sprint finish for his team sprinter, Mark Cavendish.
Cavendish looking very comfortable in the wheel of Luke Rowe. Wiggins is just in front of Luke Rowe. So that brace of super talent is going to give Cavendish the final launching pad for the line. Tiernan Locke is just in front of Wiggins as we've got 2.3 kilometres to go here on the Blackpool Promenade.
This is all going to be about timing. Timing crucial for anybody who wants to cross this line here under the tower in first place. As we see Mark Cavendish just on the left-hand side of the screen, just going out of our shot now. He's got his teammates up there with him.
1.8 kilometres to go. It's a little bit greasy here on the promenade, but the fact that it is dead straight is going to be a great advantage for the field. Still on the front, really turning the screw is Sky.
They really are applying the pressure, aren't they? Russell Downing there in second place. Jonathan Tierenlock in his wheel from Endura Racing. And then we've got Bradley Wiggins in fourth.
And then Luke Rowe.
Luke Rowe will be the man to set up Mark Cavendish, as we see. It looks like one of the American teams there, Garmin Sharp, trying to come up, getting in on the action, but Bradley Wiggins there, he's closed the road down on the right-hand side. This is perfect at the moment for Mark Cavendish there in third place.
He wouldn't allow that, would he? The intruder was trying to get into the train, and Wiggins just rode across and palmed him off and said, "You're not going to spoil our lead out." Coming up now to the red pennant, the lantern, the 1 kilometre to go sign, the red kite, and it's Wiggins on the front here, really beginning to turn the screw, and Luke Rowe is in second position, and look out for Mark Cavendish. Cavendish is going to be trying to come through to get involved in the final chase.
Lee Howard has just come up on the left-hand side there of Cavendish and got in front. Cavendish has allowed him to get in front there. He needs wheels. He wants people to be in front of him. It looks like Wiggins there. He's just gone off the front, and now we're starting the sprint, and it's Luke Rowe on the front.
Luke Rowe is the man on the front, but now look at this then, head-to-head as they look for the line. It's the Australian on the left, but on the line it is Cavendish again. Mark Cavendish takes it right on the line. Well, the challenge came, didn't it, then, from Lee Howard, but it was Mark Cavendish that had the electric power to deny the Australian Lee Howard his second stage victory. Instead, it's Mark Cavendish, the world champion, that took the second stage victory.
2 out of 2 then for Mark Cavendish. Last year, when the stage was cancelled, he made an appearance in a Blackpool ballroom. This year, he showed off his other prodigious talent, winning bike races. A good day for Garmin's Stele van Hoff behind him. Lee Howard back in third, with Boy van Poppel and Russ Downing again in contention in fourth and sixth place respectively. Maggie Backstead, by the way, sprinted to 7th. 2 wins in as many days for Mark Cavendish. His sprint just too good again for Lee Howard. Another aggressive ride from Christian House, his third breakaway of the Tour and maximum KOM points en route. His lead now extends to 21 points. And another Brit on the podium, Pete Williams, keeps his Yodel Sprints jersey, 14 points his advantage to breakaway man Matt Cronshaw. And so, after a certain amount of discussion about his favoured choice of jersey, Mark Cavendish swapped rainbow for gold. He now leads the Tour of Britain at the halfway point. The general classification takes a shake-up too. Cavendish leads courtesy of his time bonus at the end, 6 seconds his advantage over Lee Howard, 14 seconds then to Van Poppel and Luke Rowe in 4th and 5th. Sepp van Marke is at 26 seconds in 8th place. Well, we are joined down here on the promenade by a whole clutch of people, some of whom have been braving the horrible weather out on the course. That fella there, give us a wave. He was at Chapfell, well done to him. Slightly mad, it has to be said, but well done to him. Now, Matt, we had everything today, didn't we? Wind, rain, sunshine, and a Mark Cavendish stage win.
We had a lot thrown at us today. Atrocious conditions at the start. Quite cold, windy, rain. The roads were quite flooded at some points. It was very, very difficult, and I think we drowned a few spectators. But no, Mark Cavendish, wonderfully set up today by his Team Sky, yeah.
Yeah, a huge effort to bring it back again. They've really come together as a unit. They didn't do it all on their own all the time, though, did they, today?
No, well, Ulrika Edge at the start of the day had the yellow jersey, so it's their job to ride, and that they took it into an extremely exposed section. Sky took it over with a few members of Endura and split it, you know, in the wind.
Yeah, now, it was interesting, wasn't it? And perhaps I'm being slightly mischievous here, although I don't think so. But we saw John Tiernan Locke for Endura riding right in the middle of that Sky train at several points. Now, it's an open secret, isn't it, that he's joining the team? It's just a matter of confirming that.
Yeah, I think we'll see confirmation in the next few days, if not a couple of weeks. You know, John is in tremendous form. We know he's been training with Team Sky, but obviously Endura were there to look after him. You know, he's not made too much of an effort yet, but I think he'll show his cards in the next few days.
Yeah, he's made no bones about the fact that he wants to win this race. Now, does Mark Cavendish want to win it? And certainly, can he win it?
Yeah, I think Mark Cavendish secretly does want to win it. You know, he's got the golden jersey on his back now. Whether he can win it is another matter. But, you know, Cavendish has been climbing the best he's ever climbed this year. And he won a stage race earlier in the year in Wallonia, so let's not rule him out just yet. OK, although it does get slightly lumpier again tomorrow, slightly closer to the end. Tomorrow, technically, we go from Trentham Gardens to Hanley, but realistically, stage 5 is from Stoke to Stoke. We're on air live at a slightly earlier time of 12:45 with a regular highlight slot at 7. See you then.